Well, we will. I'll just describe briefly the testing method, different testing the machine we have to perform on synchronous machine. So the synchronous generators, are of very large rating, in the range of MVA. So it is not possible to directly load the machine to test it for its efficiency, determining efficiency or its temperature rise. So direct load test is difficult because the steady load and boiler power are not obtainable, and the cost will be exorbitant. It will require huge energy. So the indirect test methods are necessarily used. Some of the methods already we have discussed during operation of the machine. Now, first one is the resistance measurement. I am not describing it here because it is the standard DC ammeter voltmeter method by which the resistance is measured, as you have studied during your DC machine class. The same method, only that there will be a correction factor to consider the skin effect, so that AC resistance, from the DC resistance we get the effective AC resistance. Then we have the open circuit and short circuit test. Now, open circuit and short circuit we have this discussed during the theory portion. Now, this is open circuit test. Basically, what is done? The machine is run at a synchronous speed, the rated speed, and the field excitation is varied, and the open circuit voltage is measured. So the field current, the field excitation by the versus the open circuit voltage plot, that will give you the open circuit characteristic. So the open circuit characteristic, or OCC, which follows the BH curve more or less, there will be saturation. So this curve is obtained. Now, then we have the short circuit test. For the short circuit test, the terminals are shorted through ammeter, and again the field current is varied. Now, obviously, we cannot supply the rated field excitation, because then the short circuit current will be excessive. So the lower value of field excitation is given, so that the current which is circulating in the stator does not exceed the rated value. So under this condition, actually, we have seen that short circuit phasor diagram. If we see, then the short circuit, basically, as the resistance is very small, and compared to the leakage reactance, so mainly the short circuit current will be almost zero power factor current. So the armature reaction is almost demagnetized, fully demagnetizing in nature. So the resultant MMF is small. So short circuit condition, there is no saturation. It is, the characteristic is a straight line, and actually the short circuit current, neglecting the leakage reactance drop, approximately is the open circuit voltage divided by the synchronous, neglecting the drops, it is EF. This resistance, if we neglect, this EF will be EF divided by the synchronous reactance XS. So EF is 4.44 pi F N into kW, whereas XS is twice pi FL. So F gets cancelled out. So in this, basically the short circuit current does not depend on the frequency. That's why, though the open circuit test has to be performed at synchronous speed, for short circuit speed test, the speed might slightly vary, but it might vary very slightly only because we have neglected resistance. So this is only true if the frequency is near to the rated value or greater than that, but not if it is very low. In that case, the resistance is no longer negligible. So then this condition does not hold good. So, but it can be done at a speed slightly less than the synchronous speed. These things we have studied earlier. So from the short circuit test and open circuit test data, we can determine the synchronous impedance of the machine. That is the open circuit voltage for a particular field current divided by the short circuit current for that same field current will give you the synchronous impedance. Knowing the resistance, we can determine the synchronous reactance. Then the next, now in the short circuit and open circuit test during some, it is that during the open circuit test, the losses which occur in the machine are core loss, friction and windage loss, and obviously the loss for the excitation system. Now, if we plot the loss versus the field current, the curve is a nonlinear curve like this, and it will cut the axis, y-axis at some point for zero excitation. So actually this will give you the friction and windage loss. So the core loss and friction and windage loss can be separated by plotting this curve from the short circuit from the open circuit test. Similarly, for the short circuit test, the main core loss is there, but that is small because the excitation is small. So what we will have I square R loss, stray load loss, friction and windage loss. Again, if we plot, the curve is a non-linear curve like this, which will cut the y-axis at this point for zero excitation. So this will give the windage and bearing friction loss. So from the short circuit test data also, the I square R loss and plus the stray load loss can be separated. So we can separate the losses, core loss, friction windage loss, I square R loss from short circuit and open circuit test data. The next one is the zero power factor test. This also we have discussed earlier. Now for the zero power factor test, what is done? The machine is run at synchronous speed by the prime mover, and zero power factor load, it is connected to a zero power factor load, variable load. Now the load and the excitation is adjusted so that the current circulating zero power factor current is constant. Now normally it is done at rated current. So under this condition, the terminal voltage and field current are plotted. That curve is this one, and it is parallel to the OCC. So this is this also we have explained like this. That is, if we plot the phasor diagram, this is our EF. So FF will lead EF by 90 degree. Now we have a zero power factor current IA. Now this is VT, terminal voltage. IA is lagging by 90 degree. So VT plus IARA plus IAXAL, the leakage reactance drop, will be your ER. So our FR will lead ER by 90 degree, and FA is in phase with IA. So FR plus minus FA will give you FF, or the field excitation. Now, actually, this is the relationship. That is, the vector relationship is resultant is FF plus FA. But under this condition, when they are 180 degree opposite, FF and FA, then this becomes a scalar equation. FF is equal to FR plus FA. So approximately we get FF from here. So FF corresponding to FF from the OCC, we can get the open circuit voltage EF. Now, actually, the zero power factor point for this, what happens, this drop is IAXAL, and this shift is the FA, because this is FR, this is FF. FF versus VT is the zero power factor plot. So this is FF, and this is FR. FR versus ER plot is from OCC. So this is FR. So this difference is FA. Now, as current is constant, so the vertical shift and horizontal shift, this is constant. So this triangle was defined as the Portier triangle. So if we shift the Portier triangle parallel to itself, so that point C traces the OCC, so point A should trace the zero power factor characteristic. So basically, zero power factor characteristic is similar to OCC by shifted by this amount OF dashed. And now during discussion of the determination of regulation, we also found that it is not necessary to perform the zero power factor test for the whole range, because from the very definition you can understand that it is very difficult to perform like this, because we will require a variable zero power factor load. So normally it is performed as at one point, that rated voltage. So this triangle, if we shift here at the base, so this should fit like this. Now this distance OF dashed, basically this should be obtainable from the short circuit test, because this is a short circuit point. So this data we can get from the short circuit test. So basically, from open circuit test, short circuit test, and zero power factor test, this Portier triangle can be drawn, and from the Portier triangle we can determine XAL, or the leakage reactance, and we have already determined the synchronous impedance from open circuit short circuit data. So the armature reaction portion also can be separated out. Now, another advantage of zero power factor test is that you can find from here that the core loss, I square R loss, and stray load loss are normal, because rated current is flowing. So therefore, there will be rated I square R loss in the stator, and correspondingly stray load loss will also be normal. The core loss also will be normal, because it is the excitation is also in the normal range. The excitation loss, we will define these losses afterwards, is slightly higher but can be calculated. So temperature, the power, but all losses are almost equivalent to the full load rated condition. But actually the power which is required to drive the machine is only due to the losses only. It is not delivering any power actually, so no mechanical input is required for that portion. So but as the temperature rise of a machine is basically due to the losses, so the temperature rise will be almost equivalent to the full load running condition. So from here we can determine the temperature rise of the machine also, because these large machines are normally fitted with temperature detector. So under zero power factor test, the temperature reading from the temperature detector also will approximately give the machine temperature rise. Otherwise, for this large machine, it is not possible to load the machine to get the exact temperature rise of the machine. Now, another next thing is how so temperature rise can be detected from zero power factor test, because from the embedded temperature rise detector. Then the next important characteristic of any machine is the efficiency. Now, for the efficiency, we have to separate the losses so that we can calculate. Now, the main losses of a synchronous machine are: first is the exciter loss, what we call, that is the field I square R loss, because when the current is flowing, there will be I square R loss in the field. Then in the field circuit, there is rheostat, so there will be I square R loss in the rheostat. Brush contact loss will be there, and the exciter loss. Exciter is the which supplies the field DC supply, so there will be exciter loss. Now, then the fixed losses. Fixed losses is core loss, bearing windage loss, bearing friction loss, brush friction loss. Now, this also you have studied during DC machine and have performed the experiment of separation of loss of DC machine. So, you know the core loss, synchronous machine running speed is constant. So, core loss depends on excitation only. Bearing friction loss, windage loss, brush friction loss, these are mainly speed dependent. So, these are fixed losses. Direct load loss, the loss which is directly proportional to the load, is I square R loss of the armature winding. Stray load loss is there. Stray load loss will be in the iron portion in the conductors. Because of the leakage fluxes, there will be eddy currents induced in the different iron portion, the end shields, the supports, and on the in the conductors also, and that will create the stray load loss. Now, the losses, this 1, 2, 3, that is the field I square loss, rheostat, and brushes. These are together determined from the voltage and current of the exciter. That will voltage into current of the exciter will uh, supply give the value of that losses. Fixed losses are calculated for rated speed and voltage, because between the fixed losses we have seen that from the open circuit data we can separate the core loss from this windage bearing friction loss. Brush friction also considered together. This portion can be separated. I square R loss, actually for machines what is done, we have the measured the resistance, and I square R loss is computed for 75 degree, taking I square, it is proportional to I square, the load current square. Now, the stray load loss is directly, it is not possible to exactly determine it. Normally, what is done for a short circuit test condition, there is a slight difference between the mechanical input and the uh, computed losses. That is the short circuit condition. We have the friction, windage bearing friction loss, I square L loss, and slight amount of core loss. That is now windage bearing friction loss, I square L loss can be calculated knowing R already measured by DC and voltmeter ammeter, knowing the current, and windage bearing friction loss can be separated from open circuit data. So summation of this should be supplied, but there is always slight difference between the mechanical input during short circuit and summation of these losses. That portion is contributed to stray load loss. Actually, it includes a very small amount of core loss also under short circuit condition. Now, stray load losses are due to stray field in the solid iron part near the stator, particularly the coil support and the end shield. Then field distortion due to cross magnetization. That is when the armature current is cross magnetizing, that is armature reaction field is 90° to main field, then the actually distorts the field, so that peak increases, so that increases iron loss in the teeth. Field pulsation due to harmonics in the armature MMF. Eddy current loss in the stator conductor due to part of the main flux being carried through the slots due to a saturation in the teeth. Now, these losses, as I told, has to be ascertained from the short circuit test approximately, because it is not possible to directly calculate it. Now, for the loss measurement, there are different methods, not for only synchronous machine, but for any rotating machine. Basically, there are loss separation. There are three methods: electrical method, mechanical, and calorimetric method. Mechanical and calorimetric method, we are not. I'm not going to in details. Electrical method. This is basically the method you have used during the separation loss of a DC machine. Here, driving motor, usually DC is employed to run the machine, for which the loss has to be separated. And the same way that you have done for the DC machine, the loss can be separated. That is here also, that is if you run the DC machine, normally in the testing laboratories, calibrated motors drives might be available. Calibrated in the sense that what it is calibrated like that input, if you know the input, you know the output of the machine also. It is but even it is not available, we can always calculate it. In the method we have calculated for the separation of losses, that is, if you drive only the drive motor at no load, then it is supplying the motor losses only. So if you keep the speed and the excitation of the motor constant, so that will give you the motor constant loss. That is, we separate out the I square R loss from there. R is separately measured, and that motor constant loss include the motor core loss, windage bearing friction loss, brass friction loss, etc. Now we couple the machine. Now in this case it will be the synchronous machine without excitation, without the brushes. So it now there will be additionally windage and bearing friction loss. Then the brushes are replaced. Then there will be additional brush friction loss. Then when we give the excitation, there will be core loss. So this way we can separate out the losses. So this is one of the methods. Then for this machine, any machines in the factory, we have to perform the high voltage test. Now, high voltage test, there are certain voltage levels which are defined in the regulations. So for the we'll just define it. That is the stator. For the stator winding, the test voltage RMS is 1000 volt plus twice the rated voltage, minimum 2000 volts. So this will be the voltage the stator winding should be able to withstand. Then generator field winding, it is 10 times the excitation voltage. Minimum is 2000 volt, maximum 3500 volt. Now note that this is 10 times the excitation voltage. So we have discussed it that for the field winding, when the field winding is open, then there is always a probability of high voltage to be induced in the field winding, because field winding has a large number of turns. So this insulation should be provided so that it can withstand 10 times the excitation voltage. These excitation voltage levels are lower than the stator voltage, normally something around 500 volt. So field windings for synchronous motors and condenser started the AC winding and this for the field winding that is started with field winding short circuited. For the starting of synchronous motor, you have seen that there is always a problem how to start the motor. If we start the motor with field winding open, there will be high voltage induced in the field winding. Then if we start the field winding short circuited, then there is a probability of that single phasing operation, the short circuited field winding will act as a single phase winding. So to reduce the effect, it is shorted through a high resistance. So when during testing, if the motor which is started through winding shorted, then the voltage should be 1000 plus twice the rated voltage minimum to 2000 volt. And if the motor is started with winding divided in sections, then the rated is 1000 volt. Voltage is 1000 volt plus twice the RMS induced voltage. So these voltages the machine should be able to withstand. Now the voltage regulation methods, there are different methods we have discussed. So standard methods by which more or less acceptable label are can be determined as the ASA method and the zero power factor method, which we discussed during the machine or operation details. Then for the synchronous motor, the machine run or no load in a constant normal frequency supply over the maximum voltage range that will permit the input power to be maintained and unit power factor by adjusting the field excitation, the input current, voltage and power, and field current and rate. The test is then repeated, but with the field current adjusted so that the field takes full load current at a power factor near to zero lagging. Now, these two basically it is what we are getting is that equivalent to the first point is equivalent to the OCC and the second point equivalent to the ZPFC. So this is one point and it is extrapolated to origin. And this is the second one, zero power factor point. So from here actually we can construct the Portier triangle. So this will be IAXL drop and this is the OCC point. So this is total IAXS drop. So this will be IAXAR drop. So for the normal generator, this we determine from the OCC and ZPFC characteristic. Now then we have to determine the reactances. Now the reactance XT, XQ, it is determined from the slip test. Slip test also we have defined earlier. In the sleep test, the machine is run at a speed slightly is different from the synchronous speed, with the field winding open. A reduced positive sequence voltage is applied to the stator. So under this condition, if we measure the stator input current and the voltage, we will see the current and the voltage both fluctuate between minimum and a maximum value. Actually, what happens, the machine is drawing basically the magnetizing current. So we have applied a constant voltage, so the air gap flux should be constant. Now when as the speed of the rotor and the synchronous speed is different, so when the armature reaction, the rotating field created by the three-phase voltage given to the stator winding is coincident with the direct axis, so the reluctance required is minimum. So our flux is constant, reluctance is minimum, so our magnetizing current will be minimum. So due to this low magnetizing current, the drop in the leads will be small. So the terminal voltage at the motor terminal, that is maximum, fixed voltage minus small drop. So under this condition, we measured the direct axis synchronous reactance. Under this condition, voltage is maximum, current is minimum. This opposite happens when the rotating field coincides with the quadrature axis. Their reluctance is maximum. So armature current requirement is magnetizing current requirement is maximum. Drop is maximum, so corresponding voltage will be minimum. So minimum voltage by maximum current will be the XQ. Now there is always some possibility of error to the human error to, if you calculate by this method. So we have also seen that XT can be determined from open circuit and short circuit data, and the ratio of XT and XQ can be determined from reactance. So from there we get the reactances. Then the sudden short circuit test. We have just sketchily discuss short circuit. So from under short circuit condition, actually synchronous machine is basically reactive because resistance is very small. So when there is a short circuit in this highly reactive circuit, there is a tendency of the circuit to the circuit machine will try to keep the flux constant. So there will be sudden surge in current both in the stator and the rotor current. Normally the stator and the rotor current are decoupled, they are not interlinked, but under short circuit condition rotor current also will oscillate. So again the current forms depend on what type of a short circuit it is, whether single phase, three phase, or three phase short circuit, or two line to line fault. That will depend on the actual form, will depend on that. Now, what is the machine behavior under short circuit, that has to be tested. Now, under the for this test condition, the sudden short circuit across the stator terminals at rated speed and normal voltage on open circuit is observed. It enables some of the reactance and time constant to be evaluated. The stator, what is done, the stator is clamped first, and then the clamp is removed, and it is run to overspeed, and excitation is adjusted to rated value. Now, after it has reached a speed greater than the synchronous speed, the drive motor is de-energized, and the set will start retarding. Now, there is a oscilloscope which will record the phase current, field current, and the voltages and the supply voltages. Now there is a remote controlled short circuiting arrangement. Now the short circuit is applied just the set is passing through the rated speed. The oscillograms are then analyzed. Now, what type of short circuit that can be simulated? Now, this is just an example. Now, this will be the stator voltage, short circuit current, and field current forms for three-phase short circuit. Now, it has been told that some of the parameters can be determined. Now, say if this is the waveform for symmetrical short circuit current, in that case, this waveform can be analyzed. This first 2-3 half cycle, this forms the subsynchronous operation. So then subsequently, this is the subtransient operation, and this is the transient operation. So this is the subtransient operation, this is a transient portion, and then this is the steady state short circuit. So for measuring this details calculation is not we are not I'm not going into this, but we can measure this transient portion, this tangent has been extended, then it is measured. This is equal to 0.368 em by x double dash. It is the substandard reactance. It is the transient reactance, em by x dash. Now this is em by x dash. This is em by x double dash. And this one will be em by x dash minus em by xs into 0.368. This is the transient time constant. This is the subtransient time constant. So by analyzing this symmetrical short circuit current, these parameters can be determined. Temperature rise, I have what we have discussed, the temperature for the temperature rise test that we can get from the zero power factor characteristic test only, because it is not possible to run a 100 MVA machine with full load to determine its temperature characteristic. Now, while we do it, these are the assumptions actually we made. First, that the stator temperature rise is the sum of three individual rises proportional to the windage loss, core loss, and I square L loss plus the stray load loss. The stator core loss is function of terminal voltage and is determined by open circuit test. This is how we determine stator core loss. The stray load loss is the same on short circuit, zero power factor, and rated power factor condition, and independent of temperature. Now the stray load loss is normally approximately determined from the short circuit test. Now it is assumed that it is independent of temperature. Actually, stray load loss is due to some eddy current induced in the associated supporting iron parts and in the conductors. So it can be approximately taken to be independent of temperature. So then rotor temperature rise is assumed to be sum of two individual rises, the windage and bearing friction loss, windage loss, and the I square R loss. There is heat redistribution after each individual test, whatever we have discussed so now. So for each and every test, there will be some temperature rise, and after we stop the machine, there will be slight redistribution of temperature, because heat will flow whenever there is a temperature difference, but that is assumed to be negligible. The gap is a thermal insulator. Gap means the air gap is assumed to be a thermal insulator, and there is no heat transfer between the stator and rotor. So the stator and rotor temperature rise are assumed to be independent. So this is a very sketchy description of industrial test, because actually uh, these tests are very elaborate methods. This portion I have taken from MGSA. So some more details, if you are interested, you can get from MGSA, from other chapter. Now your course syllabus is more or less covered. A little bit it left, which is related to permanent magnet synchronous machine. Now, before going to that, actually, I found that next Thursday is Kali Puja, so there will be no class. And the next one, that is 11th, I will take the class test on 11th, because actually your class test week was this week. But as I have not declared the class test before the pujas, so I skip it for this week. We will have the class test on 11th. Then whatever left, we will discuss on the next class after that. Okay. So I will stop here today.
Ma'am, will
Now,
you send this note?
this note I will send. And for the class test portion, today's whatever we have done before the puja, up to that will be not this test portion. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
The notes I will send you.